Okay? First, we're going to talk about oxidative capacity, ORAC, oxygen radical absorbance capacity. This is a measure of how strong an antioxidant is and how long that effect will last in the body. First of all, we have to talk about what free radicals are. And I'm not talking about Osama bin Laden. Okay? Free radicals are particles that are missing an electron. Okay? You get a molecule that's missing an electron. Electrons are like codependent couples. They got to be together. They got to be in pairs. Okay? When a molecule is missing an electron, it's either looking to give up its extra electron or get another one to make a pair. Okay? No one's wearing name tags. You can't do this. I'm sorry, what's your name? I'm sorry? Benito? Okay, what's your name? Marlon. Okay. I'm a free radical. I'm missing an electron. Benito has plenty. I'm going to take one of his. Okay. I'm good. I got my pair. What's Benito now?
Less.
He's a free radical now. Okay.
I go and grab one.
Benito goes and grabs an electron off of her. So now she's a free radical.
Yeah.
And this is called the free radical cascade. When you have a free radical, it tries to rip electrons off of its neighboring molecules. Eventually, it leads to tissue damage, which eventually leads to what they call a catastrophic event. Error, catastrophe. Small errors will build until a catastrophic event occurs. The small errors are oxidative stress and a free radical cascade. The catastrophe is cancer, a heart attack, stroke. That's the end stage of this sort of free radical damage. Okay? If you can prevent the free radical damage or slow it down, you wind up not having the catastrophe. The best stories are the ones that are never going to be told, right? So, we are told that we should get 3,000 ORAC value points a day, okay? From our fruits and vegetables, from our diet, so we have enough antioxidants to deal with free radical damage, right? So if you look, here's Chava. Per 100 grams, Chava has actually more than that in recent studies, 465,000 ORAC points. Okay? There's about 39,000 ORAC points per little square of Chava. That's the same as in 5 pounds of spinach. And over 2.5 pounds of blueberries. Did I say that right? Blueberries? I have a Philadelphia accent. I say burry instead of berry. I got to work on it. But you can see, there's whole companies out there that sell juice products. Acai juice, goji juice, mangosteen juice. And 1 square of Chava has more antioxidants in it than whole bottles of that juice. You know, and their whole thing is about being an antioxidant. Right? Now, why is that? Well, understand, chocolate, dark chocolate, is a strong antioxidant. See, dark chocolate has 13,000 per 100 grams. But the natural cellular defense, the zeolite, is also an antioxidant. It functions as an antioxidant by capturing, scavenging free radicals whole as part of its detoxifying process. Remember what I told you? 1 + 1 = 17? So you have 2 different antioxidants that do the same thing, but do it through different pathways. And you wind up with a synergistic benefit. So when you add them together, the free radical, its ability to capture free radicals is amplified dramatically. And so I got to tell you, of food products, this is the highest ORAC value I've ever seen. I've been looking for things that are similar to this. And we didn't mean it to be this high. In fact, I was telling, when people asked me before what it was going to be, I said, what did I say?
3,000.
I said it should be at least 3,000 ORAC points per piece, so that's like your daily dose of ORAC. I had no idea it was going to be 49,000 per piece. That was unbelievable to me. And we've had that test done over and over and over again, just to make sure. Incredibly powerful. So, about the chocolate in the brain. Now, I already told you the chocolate components that affect the brain. Things like phenylethylamine, make your brain feel good, make it mood elevation, increase serotonin and dopamine because of the tryptophan. But we also know that zeolites increase serotonin receptors. I'll tell you what that means in a second. They did a study in mice back in the late 90s, and they found that mice that were ingesting clinoptilolite in their feed had more serotonin receptors in their brain. They don't know exactly why. They think it's simply because serotonin receptors are necessary, and when they're stabilizing their immune system and they stabilize their neurologic system, they wind up building more receptors. But this is important. And I'm going to spend the next 2 hours talking about this slide. No. Okay. First, understand that neurons, nerve cells, for the most part, don't touch. They have a little gap between them called a synapse. So you have the presynaptic neuron, the synapse, and the postsynaptic neuron. So this is a presynaptic neuron, this is the synapse, the gap, and this is the postsynaptic neuron. For electricity to go through that nerve, the wave of depolarization, the presynaptic neuron will release a neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitter will float across the synapse, the gap, and bind to a receptor. Once it binds the receptor, it opens a pore, opens a channel, opens a channel, and then the electricity, the wave of depolarization can go through. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, a lot of drugs out there try to either get more serotonin produced or prevent it from being broken down. For example, Prozac is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Sometimes when a neurotransmitter goes across, it gets sucked back up by the presynaptic neuron, right? Drugs, Prozac, block that action, so it can't be sucked back up. So more stays in the gap and can get across. But now understand this. Chocolate makes more of this. The zeolite makes more of these. More locks and more keys. What does that mean? It means better neurotransmission. You have more serotonin get across, more receptors are attaching to the serotonin, it opens up those channels. Okay? That's going to improve cognitive function, but it's also going to improve motor function. Okay? You're going to have more energy, you're going to feel better, your muscles are going to work more efficiently. All neurotransmitters, your cardiovascular health is all about electricity. How do you think your heart beats? It's all about electricity. Everything's going to work better because the neurologic system is going to work better. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Now we have some spectroscopes. Can you see that? Can someone hit the lights? Is there a light switch? Because these are really great pictures. That's better. Is that better? Okay. We looked at some spectroscopes of people who took the Chava. Is there a laser on this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the basal ganglia. This is about pleasure. This is about vigilance. This is about anti-anxiety, about stabilizing mood. And we see that there's nothing there before. And look at all that increased activity after a piece of Chava. Okay? That's huge. What's that?
It's your brain on Chava.
It's your brain on Chava. Yeah. Now here's a negative. The anterior cingulate is worry, obsession, compulsivity. Okay? Very high in alcoholics, very high in people with obsessive disorders. Okay? That's before and this is after. And what you see is not that it's so much less, but it's isolated. Here it drags all the way down here and all the way around, and here you just have that one little core. So there's a reduced area of the anterior cingulate of reactivity after the Chava. And then we have the deep thalamus. Deep thalamus is appetite, motivation, libido. This is a big center for us. And what we see here is that you have it spread out along the top of the deep thalamus, and all the activity goes inside, concentrated in the deep thalamus after a piece of Chava. Okay? What does that mean? That means you have a sense of satiety. That right away, you don't need to eat. You know, you can control your appetite. You have a sense of well-being. You have a sense of self. Okay? Because that one area is active instead of all the areas around the deep thalamus being active. Does this make sense to everybody? Sure. These are really great pictures. This isn't me, by the way. I know it looks like me, but this isn't me in the picture. It's just really fantastic. We can see this. We're going to do this about 20 more times. We've got about 30 volunteers now. And we want to have like a book of these pictures that shows before and after, basically your brain on Chava.
Awesome.
Where we sign up to volunteer?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Where did we sign up?
Yeah, it was a guy. Oh, you want to volunteer?
Volunteers.
Where do you stand?
Yeah. Where's the line?
Well, you know, spectroscopes aren't fun. There is a contrast agent.
Oh. Okay, sunlight.
And then they would quit. You turn the lights back on. Let's talk very briefly about the cardiovascular system. You know,